and as well as to remember already issued tickets and lists. And probably it bears some object function like to increase the commercial avenue or to increase the utilization of the infrastructure. So when a request comes, the provider has to decide whether to issue a ticket and what to issue in this ticket, and allocate the resources the same as the current purchase. If we think deeper about how to issue a ticket, there are three approaches. So the first one, like the previous method I talked about, is that you remember. So when a request comes, you give a concrete assignment and remember this assignment. When the next request comes, you are going to allocate resources based on the remaining available resource pool. The advantage is obvious that every time you have to only worry about one request and try to map one virtual network into the physical network. And the disadvantage is that, as I mentioned before, there is no flexibility in resource reallocation. The second approach is another extreme. So we are going to respect all the lists because we are not talking about the leaf migration or anything like that here. So we are going to respect all the existing lists. And whenever a request comes, I'm going to rethink or solve the problem of satisfying all the previous requests as well as the current one. In this way, we might extract maximum benefit from the economy and achieve optimal utilization. But it may be too complex because every time you have to solve and try to map multiple virtual machines into one physical infrastructure. But between these two extremes, there are a large space for different possible solutions, for different possible strategies. And you have to make a trade-off between the complexity of the allocation problem and the potential efficiency of the testbed resource allocation. So based on the different goals of the provider as well as the different characteristics of the request, you might need to increase the utilization or worry about the commercial revenue. And in between, there are different solutions you can pick up. For example, you can look at the bottlenecks of the networking and try to assign some of the tickets if possible, or you can just revert the last assigned ticket and consider only the last two requests. So there are a large space here. In this paper, we're not trying to propose an optimal algorithm. We're just trying to point out that there is some space for you to research on. And this is a strawman experiment. We try to explore the potential of the benefit and try to confirm that our assumption is true. So the evaluation metrics here is the time to solve the request, as well as the total proportion of allocated physical resources. Here, the part that is what we call infrastructure utilization. So we generated, we used MiniNet to generate physical tree network with depth 3 and depth 6, and random allocated with different capabilities to the host with the switches. And the test workload is a round-robin sequence of 4 predefined requests. I'm not going to explain in detail about the experiment because this one is influenced so much about the physical infrastructure we are using and the request we are dealing with. But what we are trying to show is that there can be some potential for utilization improvement. So the first, the graph shows that here is the resource utilization, and this line is about the resource utilization. As we can see, at the 34th request, then this one fails, and at that time, only 70% of utilization. And after that, only small requests can be met. The second one, we are using so the first one is about the sequential solving. Every time I remember the previous assignment. The next one is global solving, and we are using the exact CLP and constraint solver. And as we can see that at the 23rd request, the solving time is already not showable in this graph, and the execution time is already substantial. And the result, we didn't even manage to allocate half of the resources. And so we are picking up one solution in between. And if you are interested in the concrete algorithm, go to the paper. But we are managed to show that at the sacrifice of the response time, actually we can achieve later infrastructure utilization. So in conclusion, we propose a new way to negotiate testbed resources. The take-home message is that we can late bound resource promises by expressing them as constraints. And there are a lot of potential advantages. I mentioned some before, and if you are interested, you can go through the paper and see more of the advantages. And thank you, that's the talk, and I'm very happy to take questions and comments.
Any questions?
So in case of planning lab, the resource, any testbed, the resources you request are different from resources you consume actually. So when you calculate the global status or local status, you have to differentiate between what's been promised and what's been allocated and actually used. So it makes the computation more complex. So do you consider that in your algorithm?
It might, but it is a trade-off. The complexity to solve the allocation problem and the potential improvement of the utilization. And this is the primary work, and we are going to look deeper into this. And we have already contacted the academic people to get the trace, 4-year trace of their request, just based on their characteristic of the request that they get and the current testbed we have to see whether they conflict between.
So, have you considered assigning some priorities to each plans so that the providers can assign resources according to their priorities?
Yeah, there is a huge space of possible solutions, right? And yes, for this kind of big projects to the client, and whenever they produce the results, we are going to take some practice out. Yes, it can be applied. We are just proposing a general idea. And as well as the resource allocation in between for the provider is that we can even apply some overbooking like a light system just to probabilistically guarantee that you can get the resources when you want to use them.
Occurred to me, do you include any concept of deadline in your schedule? Say, I want these resources, this amount of resource before this deadline?
And that's the beauty of the reservation system, right? Because when the conference deadline comes, everybody knows to plan that and try to allocate the machines. But if we have the reservation system, then we can plan that in before. And another beauty of this constraint is that instead of saying I need these resources from 8 to 10, we can say I need that for 2 hours in the morning, so that you get more chance to get the resources you want.
Okay, any more questions? Just one. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.